Have you ever heard of the disappearance of Chelsea Grimm? Because this is probably one of the most strange missing person cases that you've never heard of, and the deeper you look into it, the more questions you have. Chelsea Grimm was 32 years old and lived in San Diego, California. She was a licensed clinical social worker and an avid photographer. She loved to travel and explore historic places. But there was one thing she loved even more than traveling, and that was Roxy, her bearded dragon. In September of 2023, Chelsea was supposed to be traveling across the country to her friend's wedding in Connecticut. But when she found out there was going to be difficulty with traveling with Roxy, her bearded dragon, she decided to pack up her car and drive across the country rather than fly. She packed up her white Ford Escape with all of her camping gear and all of her expensive photography gear, and she planned this trip across the country. She wanted to stop at different historical sites and cemeteries to photograph along the way. At first, everything seemed pretty normal, but on September 27th, she stopped in Phoenix to visit some friends and her sister, and this is when things started to take a turn. Something had changed because she called her parents and said, "You know what? I'm not even going to go to the wedding in Connecticut at all. I'm going to take some photographs around here in Arizona, and then I'm going to head back to California." She also warned them that she might lose cell service while she's out camping. Still in Arizona, the next day, Chelsea stopped at a motel to try to get a room for the night. But there is actually security footage of this, and she says that she wants to pay for the room in euros. And they were like, "No, we only accept American dollars," so she left and didn't end up booking a room. Later that same day, someone called the police about a suspicious car sitting at a cemetery in Williams, Arizona. And when the officer arrived, he found Chelsea sitting there alone in her car and she was crying. Basically, she told the officer that she had been photographing some of the graves and she became emotional, but she was completely fine. She was completely respectful to him, and he was kind to her too, and he offered her some suggestions on places that she could stay that night that were safer. Then on September 29th, a woodcutter reportedly came across Chelsea camping in a remote area near Ash Fork. He asked if she was okay, and she simply told him that she was, but that was the extent of their conversation. That is believed to be the last confirmed sighting of Chelsea Grimm. Several days later, hunters made a discovery. Deep inside the Kaibab, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, National Forest, on a remote Forest Service road, they found Chelsea's white Ford Escape abandoned. Here's a photo. The SUV was locked and it had two flat tires, but there was no obvious signs of a struggle. Inside the vehicle were many of her belongings, including her expensive camera equipment that she almost certainly valued. But there were several items worth noting that were missing from the car. Her phone, her wallet, her driver's license, some of her camping gear, her sleeping bag, and there was no sign of her bearded dragon Roxy. Authorities launched extensive searches within this wooded area and they found absolutely nothing. No Chelsea and no sign of Chelsea. So what do we think happened to Chelsea? After she had those two flat tires, did she maybe go out on her own? She could have become disoriented and succumbed to the elements out there. Then there's the possibility of foul play, which is terrifying. And finally, there's the theory that Chelsea just wanted to disappear and start over. Nearly 3 years later, the questions remain the same. Why did Chelsea decide not to go to that wedding in Connecticut at all? What happened to her after she left her SUV with the two flat tires? And how does someone completely manage to disappear in the year 2023 with no digital evidence, no video footage, just completely vanish without a trace?